Hi, my name's Hananya.
Hello there, my name is Shameem.
And my name is Leslie. We're three international friends on a mission to write and publish our first novels. We are the three writing Amigas.
Now, the three of us met on this journey, to write. So we stare at each other. I love that.
Yes. How do we approach this?
I think we all met on the what's it called, the first
book coaching.
Book coaching course.
So what brought you there, Hananya? Like how did you find them?
I was approached on Instagram by, I think, probably the assistant, but it was under the owner's name, right?
Yeah. So they tracked you down?
They tracked me down. But the weird thing is they said, oh, it looks like we're both following each other. And I was definitely not following them. So that was very funny to start with. But I guess like my Instagram is very much, this is like my author page. I'm writing. Right. So that was how they found me. They tracked me down. And they convinced me to join the course, I guess, because I had been working on my book for quite some time and I was lost on how to approach the editing phase of that book.
Had you finished your whole first draft?
Fourth draft, actually.
Fourth draft of that
that book. Yeah.
Oh my God, I just want to finish my first draft. Never mind get a fourth draft.
Yeah, you're still drafting, right? You have it. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I have 32,000 words to go.
You got this.
So you have like a target in mind.
Yes.
Of what you want. So how did you come? Because you and Hananya met before I met you. So
yeah, I think Hananya must have joined. You must have joined Hananya a couple of weeks before me. Similar story. Maybe, yeah, I was contacted proactively, let's say, on Instagram, but I also saw the same group on Facebook. So I joined the open group on Facebook. So I just, was a bit of a voyeur, I suppose. I just watched it and seen the content. I didn't really join in. I'm not into any of that really. And then somehow, I ended up joining similar circumstances, I think, to Hananya. And that's kind of how I joined. But I think I was actively looking for something as well related to get me over the hump of not writing my book that I wanted to write for years and years and years.
Had you not started at all when they contacted you?
No, I had started. But I'd only done. I overthink everything. I procrastinate. I plan and plan and plan. And when it comes to the writing, I plan so much. I didn't actually do much apart from planning. And
I'm like a writer.
Well, I just went straight back to the beginning. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I went back to college, redid English because I felt I needed to understand the rules. Did a lot of research. I did some other writing courses as well with a company, remote, but I didn't really enjoy that. And what I liked about the idea of this course was there being a cohort where you're having meetings like this, so we get to see each other instead of just being like, these names in a forum, but there's no body or no physical being behind it. So.
Yeah, because it is lonely to write, or it can be really lonely to write. Because you have your story and no one else can, is really writing it with you. So it's nice. It was one of the things that attracted me to. I was not recruited, by the way.
You're the odd one out.
But I had, long story another time maybe, but I had written a first draft of this book in third person, realized that was terrible. Rewrote it in first person, but I had only gotten to the climax and then couldn't finish the book, and ran across one of their ads and said, oh, I want to check that out. And so I ended up joining. Right before that, I had gone back to sort of what Shameem likes is I decided, you know what, you need to plot the end of this because you're just like running around in the goo, you know, and nothing's happening. So I had kind of sketched out the end, but I knew it wasn't there. And I needed like someone to be accountable to, but I also like the same thing. I like the idea of this community. They really, you know, push this idea of community and stuff. And so I joined and everything. And so I, you know, you can meet every day if you want. And the first or second day, and there's a bunch of people, you know, it's a Zoom, so it's a bunch of people. And I'm looking around at all the people, like, who looks interesting and whatever. And I see the posters behind Shameem. And so I DM'd her and said, hey, you got Prince posters, very cool. And she wrote back and said, oh my God, you know, that's Prince. Most people think it's Jimi Hendrix. I was like, rah!
Yeah.
And that's what started us talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Hananya and I started talking because I think for the first couple of calls or the meetings, I was terrified. I didn't want to say anything because I noticed that every time you had a question, they brought up your work and shared it with everybody on the call. And that gave me the horrors because I didn't want anyone to look at my stuff. I was, because I felt like, you know, it wasn't going to be good enough. And I was having there's a lot of domestic violence in my story. And I was having a real problem trying to convey it in a way that wouldn't be, you know, salacious, or I wanted it to be hard hitting, not for people to get off on it, really, kind of thing. Yeah. And then Hananya she messaged me and offered to share some of her writing, which I thought was super cool. And that's how we got started chatting. But Hananya, can I just say, before you tell us your bit, you two are much nicer than I am, because you contacted me proactively. But on the basis that you two did, I thought I would pay it forward. So there was another girl on one of the calls, and I saw that she had a cat, and I thought, oh, excellent, we got something in common. So I messaged her and said, oh, nice cat, kind of thing. And she just, like, you know, nothing. She didn't come back. She didn't, like, it was just like whatever. And I thought, that's it now. I'm not even going to bother with anybody else. So I'm going to stick with you two.
Well, look what she's missing out on. So there you go.
I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could have been the 4 writing Amigas.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as great, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Not as good.
Yeah.
You stood out to me because you were a regular to me when I first joined.
Yes, I was there every single day.
I kept seeing you on there, and I thought, wow, you are committed because you're there all the time. So
yeah.
So we should note that you were there all the time. Shameem was there a lot. I was there in the beginning, and
now none of us are there. Yes, very true. Thank you for pointing that out.
What that says, but I'm just, you know.
Yeah, I finished my modules though. So in terms of being a student,
exactly.
and you know, fulfilling I finished my book structure. I've got my plan.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. I'm not quite. I'm on the last module. Not the last. That's just like making your plan or whatever. But you know, the last has any work to it.
I'm insanely jealous that you two have finished your drafts. So
yeah, I mean, I have not worked on my book for 3 months, so I wouldn't be so jealous.
But you know, look, it's taken me how many years? Literally years.
I know.
To finish, and then I rewrote it because, like I said, third person, then first person, and then I still have to edit it. So a long way to go. So don't be so jealous. You know,
it's okay.
Hananya, have you always like written? I mean, like, how did you come to write? Yeah,
I've basically always written. It kind of stems from something that my mom said when I was little, because I used to have terrible nightmares every single night. And my mom used to say, just make up like a happy story and then fall to sleep like to that. But yeah, I made my stories a little bit too elaborate, so it kept me up all night. And I started writing them down because I was like thinking about it all the time. So then I had a notebook next to my bed and I would write them down. And once I got my own laptop, I was writing every single time. And that was when I joined high school, got my own personal laptop. And And I wrote so many stories. So I've been writing for a really long time, I feel.
Are they always fantasy kind of, or do you?
I feel like most of my stories are more like romance based. That is like kind of the heart of all of my stories. There's always romance in my stories. And then I kind of figure out everything else like after that, or like kind of, okay, I have this setting. This is what I want to write about. Like I have all of my stories are romance.
Always in fantastical worlds.
No.
Like in current day.
Yeah, my first stories would just be like kind of more contemporary, like real life kind of situations.
Which one do you like better?
Ooh, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of coming up with everything, but that has also kind of been the reason why I've not worked on my book, because I have to research all the things. But yeah, I feel like that in a way is why contemporary is easier to write, because it's like current day.
Right.
People will understand if it's like set right now, like people live right now, so they will know what right now means and like how that works. But you know,
and we haven't read each other's stuff yet, so that's like
no.
But so
well, I mean, Shameem has read like one chapter that I'm gonna completely scrap. So
do you set your stories in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands?
Sorry?
Do you set your stories? I'm just curious.
No.
Do you set your story in Amsterdam? I mean, or the Netherlands or whatever?
Not really.
Okay.
You would not get a sniff of the Netherlands from how Hananya speaks, from her. I'm just saying, like the chapter I read, there is nothing.
You've read a chapter? I haven't even read, but remember when we first came all together? I was like, well, I don't remember what clued us in, but both of us, right? Didn't we, Shameem? We both thought
I thought Hananya was
American or Canadian.
Everyone.
Like, but
yeah.
So
I've had this one call when on the Zoom with the book coaching where like one of the coaches was there and we were talking about the weather, like very stupidly, like, you know, casual stuff. Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's this and this, like it's cold. And I was like, how cold is it? And he was like saying something. And I was like, oh yeah, over here it's also like this and this. And then people were like, oh, so like where in the States are you? And I was like, I'm not in the States. And then they were like, oh, are you Canadian then? And I was like, no. Yeah, it's always very funny. Everyone always thinks I'm American, so I'm not offended.
I mean, good.
No, I just want to say, nobody.
I like fooling people, honestly. So.
I can't fool anybody. Nobody thinks I'm American.
No, you have an accent, but you know what? I wouldn't be able to place your accent. For me, I wouldn't be able to place your accent. I mean, a Welsh, you don't. Well, at least I don't. I know a lot of people around the world. I've never met anyone from Wales but you. That's it. So I don't even know. And I was telling Shameem one time, I would try to watch. I like to watch a lot of foreign shows and stuff. And there's this one, and it was based in Wales. And normally, I really like to hear the original language and then just have subtitles, right? But they sounded like fairies, like which of the fairies. The dubbing because it was so distracting. It's really pretty, but I'm like, oh my god, am I watching Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I don't think anyone sounds like fairies in Wales, but weird.
The accent is very different there than other parts. Yeah, that happens in cities too.
It's loads of different dialects in the UK.
Do you speak Welsh?
No. There's a weird thing about Wales. So I live in South Wales, and people in South Wales have Welsh accents. A lot of people will have a stronger accent than me, and we can't speak Welsh. I mean, we had to do it in school, but I dropped it as soon as I could. And then when you go to North Wales, people have like English accents or Liverpudlian, I would say, and they can all speak Welsh. It's really weird.
So interesting.
Really weird. Yes. And there's still some towns in Wales where if you rock up and start speaking English, everyone starts to speak Welsh on purpose.
Just to spite you?
Yeah.
What?
That is so funny.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so crazy.
I know.
So Shameem, what about your writing journey? How'd you decide to wanted to write? You write always?
I wrote as a kid all the time, and I used to enter competitions and stuff and win a couple.
That's awesome.
I wanted to ask as well. I also used to have loads of nightmares when I was a kid, and I wanted to ask you, Leslie, did you have loads of nightmares? I'm wondering if it's I just know my imagination is off the scale sometimes.
I am an anomaly among human beings.
This is because you're in bed by 9 o'clock.
I know, right? I was like so boring. No, seriously though, even as a kid, now it's like nothing, but I go to sleep and I wake up. And I know that I dream because people tell me I do. And I have had, maybe like 10, 15 dreams like throughout my life, mostly when I was young, that I could realize, I had a dream and it was like a fantastical world or whatever. But really, honestly, I go to sleep and then I wake up and there's nothing in between.
I mean, I feel like that is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because I enjoy dreaming, but I would also enjoy just sleeping through the night.
Well, because that's like when people tell me about their dreams, especially nightmares and stuff, I'm like, how do you get any rest? You do that every night?
Yes.
And then they're like, you dream too, you just don't remember. I'm like, okay. But this is one thing that's true for me. I'm not, of course, I'm probably dreaming, but I don't acknowledge or experience it that way. When I'm really working on a story and there's a scene or a character or there's something, right, that is unresolved, or I know I need to take it someplace, but I don't know where or how, whatever, I will wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and like the answer's there, the dialogue's there, the whatever, I really do. And I'm like, I actually have the pen and paper next to my desk and I can write with my eyes closed and somehow read it the next day. I don't know.
That's amazing.
I know, right? And it's all over, but I really do. And so that happens to me. So I know it's happening, but I mean, 99.5% of the time I go to sleep and I wake up. That's it.
I just thought it might be a new thing that connected us, that we all had nightmares.
Sorry. But and nightmares especially, I don't know how you guys get any rest.
Well,
you don't. You just wake up tired.
Yeah.
You do wake up tired. Yeah. So hold on. This is my husband who's coming in on my Zoom call that I'm recording. You're gonna walk. Oh, okay.
It's the first time he's appearing and he's doing it on a recording.
So anyway, that's it. So
no nightmares for you.
I want to know though. I'm sorry. Get back to Shameem and your writing. How did you came to us?
How
you always wrote, but do you wrote stories and or what?
I just used to do it for fun as a kid, just short stories. But I think for probably the last 10 years, I've had this itch to write a book. But my book is, I want to say, loosely based on a couple of years of my life as well. So I have, a rich well to dig into. So it's about the 18 months of my life before I left Wales to join the army. So, yes.
So amazing. You used to be a soldier.
I know.
I'm always so impressed every single time.
Right? Can you kick our butts?
No.
She could, probably.
No. My nephew used to say that when I used to when he was like 9 or 10 and I used to go home on leave. And then I don't know, I'd be driving him uptown. And then, when someone cuts you up and I start shouting them, and he's like, get out of the car and kill them, Shameem. And I was like, no, I can't do that, because if you saw me in real life, I'm 5 foot and far. I'm really short. And you
couldn't tell from the Zoom calls. This is why I feel like once we meet in person, everything's going to change.
Yeah.
for even more better.
Yeah, but better. But it's just it changes how you see people.
How tall are you, Hananya?
Oh, sorry.
How tall are you, Hananya?
5'7".
Okay. I'm
5'3".
Oh, me too. Actually, I'm not, but I say I'm 5. I'm 5'2" and a little more. So I rounded up.
Yeah, that doesn't work on height. Doesn't work rounding up on height.
No, it doesn't.
No, and not unless you're wearing heels. But yeah, so
I'm gonna have to like translate this to actual centimeters because I don't know what I just.
Oh,
I just
right,
know that I'm 5'7".
That's hilarious. So Hananya has pulled out her phone, her calculator, so she can translate it into centimeters.
I'm sorry. I just like.
I think I'm
Hello.
60. I think I'm 6. I always think I'm 60 centimeters or 62 centimeters.
No, because you're 63 inches.
Oh, they are inches, not centimeters. I haven't got a clue where I am on centimeters.
Well, because you guys are on inches.
Wait, how many inches is this? 5'2"?
5 feet is 60 inches.
60? So that would be like 63?
Yeah, I'm 63. I'm 63 inches.
63 inches. Okay.
I think.
Cool. It's 160 centimeters for anyone that's using the metric system.
Oh, say it again. I'm sorry.
160 centimeters, and I'm 172.
Yeah, you're way
160 centimeters. I was close then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were close. That's closer than I thought. I didn't realize.
So we're like this much difference.
Yeah. The American education system, I had no idea that a centimeter was that close to an inch. Just saying.
Yeah.
We use both in the UK. I mean, I grew up on metric, but right. I think because a lot of the stuff is still in imperial, as we say, you know, miles and ounces and pounds and stuff, I kind of flip between both. If I go for a run, I'll do it in miles and I'll calculate it to kilometers. And then just keep doing that all the time. I don't know. I just don't stick to one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. That's great. I can barely do the one, so you know.
So how did you start writing, Leslie?
I have always written too. I remember the very first, well, I don't know if it's the very first, but the first story I wrote that I remember, I was probably 7. It was about mermaids, and I still love mermaids, and I would love to write a mermaid story at some point. But yeah, I've always kind of written. And I've taken writing classes like in school and, you know, and stuff like that. And then I ended up, you know, as a documentary filmmaker. So I wrote all my scripts and I did the thing that Hananya loves so much, tons of research, you know. But I love, my problem is I love researching. So I could go down the rabbit hole like so easily, like researching stuff that has it does not need to ever be, will never make the story, but then I love it, you know, I just love that. So yeah, so I've always written because I've ended up, you know, in a job where I wrote a lot, whether it was nonfiction, but, you know, sort of like, if you translated it to books, it'd be like literary nonfiction, because that's kind of, you know, the documentaries, because mine were historical docs to a large extent. And then, I mean, years ago, I wanted to start writing books. And so I wrote some short stories, and I wrote one novel, which will never, ever, ever see the light of day.
Why not?
It's really bad. Really,
doesn't mean that you
really
cannot
bad.
like rewrite it.
True. And we'll see. But then, so I wrote that, you know, and like I said, put away, and then wanted to write something else. And this gets to why I ended up really with First Book Coaching, because I was working, right? So I didn't have a lot of time and family and all of that. And I'd written the first book with a partner. And so for me, being someone who's very deadline oriented, because I worked in TV for so long, having someone to be responsible to, I knew I'd have my pages done. So first I hired, I went to this writing coach who I wanted to hire her to, you know, and I sent her samples, and she really liked this short story that I had written, and said it was about this little girl and then her grandmother. And the writing coach really clued in on the grandmother and said, what if you took the grandmother back in time and sort of her origin story in a way, which led me to creating the story that I'm writing now. And so I worked with her for like 10 sessions, but it just wasn't structured enough for me, you know? And so I finished out my 10 sessions and I was done, and I kept trying to work on it, and I did, you know, here and there and everything. And then I moved and wanted to really dedicate myself. And that's when I rewrote the book, because I realized third person wasn't working. But I reached that point where I didn't know how to finish it. And that's when the coaching, how we met, the first book coaching came into play, because I was kind of looking for that again, but I liked the idea of this group element, because it's just such a lonely thing. It's hard to sit down every day, or however many times, you can. You hear these stories about people like, yeah, I had like 5 jobs and 22 children. And so I just got up at, 2 o'clock in the morning and wrote a half an hour and then 10 minutes over here. And they produce works. And I'm just not like that. Like,
No.
life just takes over,
Yeah.
So it was sort of that. So that's how I end up with the book I have now, that I have written all the way to the end, sort of dubiously, but then now through all these exercises and things, I know we're going to talk about all this stuff in more detail on another episode. But I realized that my book wasn't ultimately about what I thought it was about. And that was freaky. So that's the writing journey that I love, though, because it's right. It's kind of self-discovery as well as spinning a tale, and it's sort of fun. So I don't know. But it's what I like. I'm excited about us doing this podcast is that we have been meeting pretty much every week. For what months? 4 months? 4 months? Maybe more? 4 or 5 months? Something like that.
Yeah.
Longer, I think.
Yeah, but because we've been involved in the thing, we've been talking about specific problems, but it's really nice to like really sit and really kind of get to know each other more.
I agree.
Because we haven't really talked about some of this stuff.
No,
not really. No.
Weirdly, we have not talked about our books much at all, considering that was the primary reason we got together in the first place. And well, that's not a very good advert, because we haven't actually helped each other to move forward and single inch.
Well, that's not true.
I don't know.
No, in the book writing process, I mean.
Well, I don't know. You guys have helped me. Maybe I should help you.
No, it's because I didn't commit to it. It goes back to what you were saying earlier. I haven't made a commitment. I haven't made a promise. I haven't said, I mean, we've talked about it, but we've mainly talked about the reasons that we haven't been doing what we should have been doing.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Trying to fix that bit first, more than moving forward with, well, this is what actually, isn't it? From this point forward, we are moving forward with our writing journeys.
Well, right. See, that's what I mean. That's what's so good about this, because we've now committed that we're going to talk about our work with each other, and we try to hone in on issues and successes and whatever, and move our books forward, because now we've committed, remember, at the beginning of the year, we committed that our goals are to finish our books, edit our books, and really move towards publishing. So the podcast is going to help us do that, because now it's going to be like a public commitment. So we kind of
I'm gonna have to throw in a word count or something just to force me to finish my draft. So
it'll happen. So you think it's time for coffee?
Love a cup.
Let's do it.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us.
Great.
Be sure to follow Hananya at Hananya LeClaire on Instagram and YouTube. Follow Shameem on Instagram at @rnpinkhamauthor. And Leslie on Instagram at ld.farrell.writer. Or catch all of us on YouTube at 3 Writing Amigas. Until our next hangout, keep on writing.